A second chance. My name is Sarah Bennett and this is my story. I am a 40-year-old woman. I work in an office and I live a simple life. I am married to my husband David Bennett and we have 2 children. Our daughter is 14 years old and our son is 11. We live in a small warm house. It is not perfect, but it is our home. Every morning I go to work and every evening I come back home. David cooks dinner and the children talk about school. We eat together and watch TV. Sometimes we laugh and sometimes we are tired, but we are a family. I always thought my life was stable. I never thought it could break. One evening I sat alone at the kitchen table. The house was very quiet. Last month everything felt normal, but now I felt something was wrong. I closed my eyes and tried to rest. The next day I came home from work feeling very tired and sick. I had a bad cough for 3 days and my chest felt heavy. I had little energy. At work, my coworkers looked at me and said I should see a doctor. I knew they were right, but I kept saying I was fine. When I entered the house, my husband David was in the kitchen cooking dinner. He looked at me and asked if I had a bad day at work. I nodded and told him I felt sick and tired. He listened carefully and then told me I had to see a doctor. He said my cough sounded bad. I did not want to argue with him, so I agreed and said I would go the next day. A few minutes later, our children came home from school. Our daughter was 14 and our son was 11. They laughed and ran to their room and their voices filled the house. I watched them and smiled. Then I looked at David. He looked calm and kind as always. He took care of the children and the house every day. At that moment, I felt safe and I did not know how fragile my life really was. The next morning, I went to the clinic. The doctor examined me and told me I needed a chest X-ray. After the test, he looked serious and said I had pneumonia. He told me I needed to go to the hospital right away. I did not want to stay in the hospital, but my body felt weak and my cough was getting worse, so I agreed. At the hospital, they gave me a bed near the window. I tried to read a book, but I could not focus. My head felt heavy and my thoughts were slow. Then the door opened and a nurse came into the room. He called my name and I answered. His name was James Anderson. He was young and very handsome. He had warm brown eyes and a gentle smile. His face looked natural and kind. He explained what the doctor had said and told me I needed rest and medicine. I nodded, but I did not really hear his words. When he stepped closer to the bed, I noticed a light, pleasant smell of cologne. It was soft and clean, not strong at all. He was wearing a white nurse uniform, simple and neat. His movements were careful and confident. He looked healthy and full of energy. Everything about him felt calm and gentle. I did not say anything, but I felt impressed and my heart started beating faster. I wondered if this feeling was love. I had never felt it in a place like that before. I stayed in the hospital for 5 days. Every day I saw James and my strange feelings slowly grew. I learned that he was married and that his wife often came to meet him after work. I saw them together and I felt uncomfortable. I did not like that feeling, but I could not stop it. I tried to be friendly. I smiled and made small jokes. James smiled back, but he was always polite and professional. He never crossed the line. On my last day, I asked him if I could have his phone number only in case I needed help. He hesitated for a moment, then gave it to me and said it was just in case. When I went home, David smiled and hugged me. The children were happy to see me. Everything looked normal, but inside my mind, I kept thinking about James. A week passed and I could not sleep well. His smile stayed in my thoughts. Even when I tried to push it away, 1 week later, I made a mistake. I could not sleep well at night. My mind was full of thoughts about James. I told myself it was nothing. But the feeling stayed. One evening, I took my phone and called him. I said I needed some medical help and asked if he could come to my house. He told me I could get help at the clinic, but I said I trusted only him and asked him to come. After a long pause, he agreed. I told him to come when my husband was out and the children were at school. When James arrived, I opened the door quickly. I did not think about my actions. I reached out and kissed him. He was shocked and pulled away. He told me to stop. He asked what I was doing, but I did not listen. My head was full of wrong hopes. At that moment, the front door opened. My husband David came home early because he was not feeling well. He saw everything. He did not shout and he did not cry. He calmly helped James gather his things and told him he could leave. After James left, David looked at me and spoke quietly. He said there was no need to explain. He said he would take the children and leave and that everything was over. I wanted to speak, but he was already packing. I sat at the kitchen table and said nothing. After that day, my life slowly fell apart. The house felt empty without David and the children. 3 months later, I could not focus at work and lost my job. I stayed at home all day and stopped caring about myself. 6 months passed and sadness followed me everywhere. I barely spoke to anyone and every day felt heavy. 1 year later, my health became very bad. I was back in the hospital again. It was the same hospital where I had met James before. When I arrived, I looked around and hoped to see him. I asked about him, but no one knew where he was. It seemed that he had moved to another place or to another hospital. I felt disappointed and empty. In that moment, I wished I could see James one more time. I stayed in bed for many days. Each day, my body felt weaker and breathing became hard. My thoughts were slow. The doctor spoke to me softly and I understood that my condition was serious. I knew I did not have much time left. One night, I lay very still on the bed. I had no energy left in my body. I knew I was dying. I had no hope anymore. And I felt very tired of everything. I did not want to fight and I did not even want to live. As I lay there, my mind became very clear. I remembered my life before all the mistakes. I remembered my husband's smile and my children's voices. I remembered how happy we once were together. I knew I loved my family very much, but I had lost them. My body felt cold and my breathing became slow. I felt myself going deeper and deeper into darkness. I stopped thinking and I stopped feeling. Then I knew nothing anymore. Then I felt a gentle hand touch my arm. I heard a soft voice call my name. Sarah. Sarah Bennett. I opened my eyes slowly. The light felt bright and my heart was beating fast. For a moment, I did not understand where I was. So I asked what had happened. James stood next to my bed and looked at me with concern. He told me I had fallen into a deep sleep because of the medicine. He said I was still being treated for pneumonia and that I was safe. I looked around the room. The window was there and the bed was there. Everything looked the same as before. My breathing slowly became calm. Little by little, I understood that everything after my mistake had been a terrible dream. James asked if I was feeling better. I looked at his face again. For a short moment, the old feeling tried to return, but the dream was still clear in my mind. I remembered the empty house, the silence, and the loneliness. I looked away and said I was fine. 5 days later, I was healthy and allowed to go home. When I opened the door, David smiled and hugged me tightly. The children ran to me and laughed. The house felt warm and alive again. That night, I lay in bed and stayed very quiet. The dream was still clear in my mind. It felt real, like something that almost happened. I did not feel fear anymore. I felt grateful. I slowly turned my head and looked at my husband sleeping beside me. His face looked tired but calm. In the next room, I could hear my children breathing in their sleep. The sound was soft and warm. In that moment, I realized how much happiness I had. It was already here in my own home. I told myself to value it and remember it every day. Because sometimes we look at other lives and forget our own. What I felt in the hospital was not love. It was only a weak moment. Real love was already here with me. I reached out and held my husband's hand. I did not wake him. In that quiet moment, I promised myself not to wait until it was too late. Some people learn the truth when they lose everything. I was lucky. I learned it before I did.